Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Awesome.
Spring is coming. Look at Jennifer. The sun is on its way.
I'm bringing it back with me.
Now we're talking.
I still have one foot in the sand.
I don't blame you. We have a jam-packed meeting today. Jim, I don't know what you would have said because it probably is a good thing it wasn't on camera. No, I'm just kidding. Jam-packed meeting. We're going to go through a lot of stuff very quickly, and we're very, very excited. Spring market is pretty much here, right? Who's busy? Raise your hand. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's a sign of things to come. So without further ado, I want to touch on the calendar and some upcoming events, and then we will get into today's content. So first and foremost, there's an ALC meeting after the team meeting today in this room. Starts at 12:15. Nikki did bring some lunch. So after the meeting, if you want to go to the resource room in the kitchen area, there's some lunch that you can partake in. CGI goals with Katie will be tomorrow from 10 to 11. On the 15th, there's scripts, there's healthy living workshop with Trudy and gang, there's the ribbon cutting ceremony and open house in Austin. If you can be there, we'd love to have you. It's at 3:30. It'll probably last 30 minutes to an hour. There's going to be some refreshments there. Thanks. I see how it is. I see how it is. Yeah. We'd love to have you there. They migrated to a new location, a beautiful office building. Come on out and support them if you can make it that day.
Come early and help us move furniture.
That's true too. That's already done, right?
No.
Is there more to move?
Oh yeah. Well, the table came in a box.
Did it really?
Some assembly required.
When do you guys think you have it put together?
Well, I'm
show up afterward.
Yeah. We got to work on it tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. The 19th CGI call and huddle at 1. Dot loop and green sheets will be taught by Katie from 10 to 11. If you need a refresher, or if you haven't quite had your first closing yet, or you're working on your first closing, come on in. She'll teach you how to do green sheets. The 21st, Mr. Jim is teaching a class that he titled "Cover Your Assets: How Not to Get Sued." That's going to be from 1 to 2 on Wednesday right here. Then the 22nd will be scripts, healthy living with Trudy and gang again. And then Mel is teaching a workshop on websites that day, 12:30 to 2. Who went to her workshop last week? Anybody in this room? How was it, would you say?
It was good.
Yeah, covered a lot of things and probably more detail, a little more hands-on. You can ask some questions and work through some stuff. So if you feel like you benefit from that from a website standpoint, come on down. Again, that will be run by Mel. Also that Thursday, the 22nd, will be our awards banquet. That's at Cambria. It's from 4 to 6 p.m. All of our locations, everybody's invited. Please RSVP if you haven't already. Nikki's going to be calling folks today just to check in with you, see if you're coming or not, so we can put you down so we know how much food to order. Should be a great time, really should. And then the 26th, again, CGI call and huddle. The 27th, first step to bold. I'll talk about that more just a little bit. Because the first step to bold's on the 27th, which is a Tuesday, we moved our team meeting to that Wednesday, so that'll be from 11 to 12. And then again that Thursday, scripts, healthy living, and then Mel will also be in Rochester from 10 to 4 that day. Any questions on any of those items?
You have enough on there?
I don't know. Would you like more? Jeez. You gotta make it happen, right? So I do want to highlight 2 things: the Austin ribbon cutting, if you can be there, and then of course the awards ceremony. We'd absolutely love to have you. One more thing that I like to talk about: win with sellers. If you're planning your training calendar, your personal one for your business, April 12th. Again, that's going to be facilitated by Gene Rivers, phenomenal speaker. It's up in the Twin Cities. I've got some flyers up here on it. Would absolutely love to have you attend. Would you mind passing those around? Thank you so much. Who's been to a training with Gene before? Camera, how's he?
He's really good.
He's really good.
I've been to multiple ones with him just because
he's awesome. Yeah, he's a great speaker. And what I love about Gene is he's got a lot of humor too, and you know that he knows what he's talking about. He's one of the most impressive presenters that I've seen. So highly recommend that you attend that. Oh, by the way, if you've got other agents, even outside Keller Williams, that you think might be good to invite to that, let us know. We'd love to have them up there. That's too easy to do. Depends. Just let me know. Great question. If you want a Red Day t-shirt, the sign up to order is right here. I see a couple of you already have. Red Day's already coming up. It's May 10th. More information to come on that. And then, Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about a litter bit better?
Yeah, every year we pick up litter along the highway right across Circle Drive here from 19th Street up to our office, back and front. We pick up a lot of stuff, and we bring it back to the office, then we have to prepare something afterwards.
Well, we know what it'll be. There'll be an indoor picnic or lunch at noon that day before we go out. It's from 1 to 3. please sign up. Again, it's right here on the 26th of April. We just go out, we pick up the litter, good community service type thing. We have some lunch and usually happy hour afterward just to make some fun of it. So, okay. So I want to talk quickly about Bold and the first step to Bold. So far we've got 3 people registered for the first step, which is awesome. Jacob's one of them. And you plan to do the full thing, is that right? Okay. Jacob, Jill, and Shauna are all registered for the first step, and I'm being a little bit more competitive this time around because the way we planned it is we're going to have it in the South Metro and have a few different market centers feed the Bold program just so we can be a little bit smarter about it versus taking everybody to the heart of the Twin Cities every time. Because if you're anything like me, you hate traffic. So by keeping it on the south side of town, especially for us, it makes it a little bit easier. So Burnsville, a little bit of an advantage because it's their home territory. They've got 23 registered. Roseville, which is in the North Metro, they've got 3 registered for the first step. Eden Prairie, which is in the West Metro, has 1 person registered. And us, Rochester, we've got 3. So we're tied for second, which is not bad. And we're coming from the furthest, so I'm pretty proud of that. We don't have anybody registered for the full thing, but I know at least 1 person will be. Burnsville has 15 registered for the full thing, and Roseville and Eden Prairie each have 1 registered. So what I would love to do is go up there and show these Twin Cities market centers that Rochester has it going on. So if you would at least be interested in registering for the first step, we'd love to have you up there. You don't have to do the full thing. Of course, we'd love you to do the full thing, but if we could have an awesome showing, at least at the first step to Bold, do some networking, let people know that yes, Rochester is a market center just an hour south of you. Oh, by the way, send us referrals. I think it'd be a phenomenal networking opportunity. I'm working with Corey and Bethany and Andy Noble right now with my counterparts to see if we can't come up with like a networking happy hour afterward. So we could do the first step, the first day, it goes to about 3:30, do a happy hour nearby. The focus would be kind of building referral relationships with people. And that way it can be a little bit more fun and maybe it would make the drive a little bit more worth it if there's a happy hour after. So
What's the start date? They're the first.
the date of the first step is, let me check my calendar to make sure I have it right. 27th of March.
And what time is it?
Yep, so it starts at 8:30 and it goes to 3:30.
Could you send us a link to register for the?
If you would like to register, I'll do it for you.
Well, yeah, I want to go to at least the first.
Made my day, Jennifer, thank you.
As long as you buy me a birthday drink.
Okay, I can make that happen. Does it have to be a fruity drink?
Sure.
Sounds good. Anybody else? I can make the first step pretty easy for you to register for you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Any takers? Okay, I'll pressure you later. Thanks, Jennifer.
I'll drive from Blooming or Owatonna. If anybody wants to trek to Owatonna, I'll drive from there.
There you go.
So. if anybody
And
wants
for a
to-
frame of reference from Rochester to the Rochester, from this area to the Burnsville Market Center, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. So it's really not that bad. No traffic, thank goodness.
It's way better than going to.
It is. And oh, by the way, if you feel like complaining about the drive, I do it every day. So
It's at the Burnsville Market Center?
Burnsville Market Center.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate it. I'll probably be calling, emailing, texting you about that. I really want to see a pretty good showing, at least at the first step, so that we continue to have them in the South Metro. That's our best bet at getting good attendance without having to take it on ourselves, which having done that once before, I mean, that took a lot of manpower and a lot of effort, which is why we're doing that maybe only once a year at a maximum. Okay, cool. Any questions about that? All right. Who's got some good news stories? Who's out there moving and shaking and making it happen? Anybody? What do you got?
I listed a house last Tuesday. We're live at noon.
Nice.
Within 24 hours, I had 25 showings, 7 offers.
Oh my God. That sounds like a nightmare story.
The offer that the sellers chose was my buyer,
Wow.
20K over list.
Nice.
I laid it out in a spreadsheet and said, here you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
pick, and then. said, okay,
Congratulations. That's a heck of a good news story. Well done. And I already saw you kind of promoting that on social media saying, hey guys, this is what the market's doing. If you want to sell, holy crap, this is what's going on.
What was your price range on it? And was it in Rochester?
$1. No, I'm just kidding.
It was listed 190, and it's right next to John Adams, very near.
Okay.
5 blocks away from John Adams.
Nice listing. Good for you. That's awesome. 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 And the buyer too. Amazing. Mr. Jim.
I had an awesome open house with my mansion that
Yeah.
I've had for 2 years.
Good for you.
We had probably 10 or 12 parties through.
That's
Turned
awesome.
all the lights off. Had to turn them
Oh, yeah,
back
I
on,
know where
turn
this
them
is
all
going.
off, had to turn them back on. People just kept coming.
That's awesome.
But
And you had,
still don't have that fire yet. though.
really, you had a newbie come with you and train her up a little bit?
Becca helped me with it. She did an awesome
Becca
job
King.
too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
she was awesome.
Good.
She needs to.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be good.
talk to her.
I'm going to. I
Please
just
do.
put a note in my calendar to contact her at this meeting.
She did a great job.
You bring up a good point. If there are agents that you know that you think would really benefit from it, encourage them to go. Encourage them. Like Bruce, I'm gonna talk to Corey about it. I think Corey
Yeah.
he would crush it up there. Him and Shauna both will get him up there. And if there's other people, they don't even have to be with our company. You guys know this already, but sometimes it just need to be reminded. Other good news stories.
I wrote Tatsu.
Here's a good news
Yeah.
story right here. How you doing? Hello. Yes, ma'am. Okay, besides your vacation to
Okay.
Mexico.
It's fabulous. Don't count out Facebook.
Tell me more.
I listed a house. I was very cryptic in my Facebook post. I think you saw it. Didn't put the address, didn't put pictures. I just said, who's waiting for blah, 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 blah. I had 12 private messages. And if you do that, don't forget to look in your other folder, because if you're not friends with them, you
Yeah.
miss their messages.
That's booby trapped me before.
And it came live yesterday, I think at 4 o'clock, and I have 6 showings today
Good for you. That's
because
awesome.
of that Facebook post.
Good for you. And don't forget
So-
too to check the message inbox of your business page every so often.
So
Very smart.
Facebook is huge, especially in this market.
Right now,
So-
any yeah. So if yeah,
It's easy.
good idea. If you're not friends with somebody, they can still send you a message, but you don't get notified about it normally. But you can still check those messages. You bring up a good point. Right now, the carrot that you can dangle is any listing that you have before market, right? And that's a great way to utilize it to shake out more business, or at least to have some built up demand before it goes active. Awesome. Who else?
I can kind of almost second that. Facebook and housewarming parties. I picked up 2 buyers with just take a moment and go through, who does my family and myself know that I don't have on Facebook yet, and friend them. And I sent a message to this lady that I met from church or whatever, and she started a conversation with me about, do you help with renters or just buyers? And we're looking to get into a new place, and it, so like that. And then last month I did a housewarming party and immediately turned a buyer around and got them under contract. So that both of those are awesome resources.
Awesome. So I'll get you in a second, Bruce. Facebook makes it easy. It suggests mutual friends for you. Just friend the crap out of them. You might feel like a creeper, but that's okay. You're in the business of creeping. It's your job. Right? Number 2, 30-second synopsis on how you do housewarmings and what your process is.
Right after closing, I send a message to the buyers. I usually do it for buyers only. And just say, hey, I'd like to do a housewarming party for you. Usually I would do a Monday or a Thursday evening. I'll bring either a taco bar, pizza, or barbecue. Let me know, and I can take care of invites. And in this case, the person already had they're moving from out of state, and so all of their people that they have here, the work friends, were already lined up to help them unload their truck. And well, I'll just bring the barbecue sandwiches then, and we'll go from there. And so I brought the food to their truck unloading party.
Awesome. And you picked up a buyer.
And I picked up a buyer.
And what's the time limit of that buyer? Sometime soon?
So the husbands worked together, and the child of this new person was in my son's class. So it was like mutual connections here.
Mhm.
And I met them on Sunday. She called me on Wednesday night saying that her lender just said, go ahead and find a house. And I had them under contract the following Sunday.
Perfect. And what's your budget for a housewarming?
My budget's 100, 150, somewhere in there.
And what price point are they gonna buy it?
This new buyer is at $225.
Okay, so quick, do the ROI on that for me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Say awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
So moral of the story is this. Now, is that something that you systematize and you do for pretty much every buyer, or you intend to?
Yes. So this was my 3rd housewarming party, and I'm still kind of working out the kinks and things, but yeah, it's,
So even if you budgeted $300, you spent $100 on each, and it took you three housewarmings to find the one buyer, your ROI is still phenomenal, right?
Yep.
So the key to this story is you're systematizing it, you're being purposeful about it, you're keeping your budget very good, you're leading with revenue, and you're making the connections, and you're going to uncover business. We've used a similar strategy, and it's awesome. So if you're looking for ways to increase business and get in front of more people, I would highly recommend you embrace that kind of a strategy. And it's fun. It's basically an open house, only you have a lot more warm introductions to people.
How many people, like 20, 30?
so in this case, it was a small party because they were coming from out of state, and it was like his 6 coworkers, and they're like, I think it was a total of 12 people. The first one I did was, they're like, do you have a limit of how many people we can invite? And I'm like, well, it's your house, so think about that. You don't want to have crazy hordes. I think we were at pretty close to 40.
That's awesome. Sometimes the smaller groups are even better though, because you can have those more one-on-one
Yes.
conversations, but still.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Bruce, you have a good news story.
You know, I'll just second that. We had the opportunity to go up and talk to Kelly, Zach's assistant, and we learned that from them. So we started as well. So awesome. Looking forward to it, and hopefully appreciate the good news that
Yeah.
comes out of this.
And I bring, plates and napkins and silverware and all that stuff. I bring food. I tell them straight up, I'm not doing drinks.
Mhm.
Like, I'll bring paper cups in addition to the rest of that stuff so that there's water's always available. But
And do you even stay the whole time?
for the most part, the one where there was like 40 people kind of just kept going, and I packed up the food
Sure.
and bailed out. I even brought some leftover container type things so that like their fridge can be stocked and I don't have to worry about that afterwards.
Cool. Awesome. And Bruce, you guys did a client appreciation event not long ago, right? You had some
We did.
good
We had
stuff.
a Saturday movie day. We got about 25 people there.
That's awesome.
It was our first one. Went well and very low key, low pressure. But everybody loved it. We did pictures of all the family,
Cool.
each family, and did a little posting on social media. So yeah, it was good. Very
Where,
good.
where did you do it, Bruce?
Cinemagic. Yeah.
What's the cost on that?
Is it per head?
Minimum
per person?
minimum 250. So they have a minimum of 50 people or 250.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
And
I thought it was gonna be worse.
no, and depending on the size, so if you have over 50 people, then they charge you, like, what is it, $5 per person?
$5 a head, and the
Oh.
more you have, the lower you'll drop it.
Yeah.
And so you can buy, pre-buy concession.
Yeah.
Tickets and stuff. or whatever.
And here's the cool thing, there's nothing to stop you four from pooling together, splitting the cost and inviting all of your clients to something like that too, right? So there's something to think about as well. So I'm really hoping that Carrie's gonna share a good news story too, because you're my last one. I'm just waiting for it, keep asking, because I'm waiting for you to share what you got going on.
Wait a minute, I have 3.
Oh, sorry, Bruce, keep going.
Sorry. I was just talking. 3 real quick. Jake wrote his first offer. Congratulations, Jake.
Woohoo! Nice job,
He
Jake.
wrote his first offer to the team last weekend. He's gonna write another offer on Friday.
Awesome.
So he's starting to rock.
God, he's a lazy
Beth
guy.
is taking her real estate class.
Oh,
first
nice.
week next
Cool.
week.
Holy smokes.
So she's gonna get her license. And I wrote 2 letters of intent yesterday for some vacant land for my investor for about
Awesome.
$1 million.
Awesome.
Nice.
Sounds good. Happy hour on Bruce, everybody. No, just kidding. That's
Wait
great.
until it closes.
Yeah, there you go. Great news. Awesome job, everybody. Awesome job. Miss Carrie.
Okay, well, besides just the cool stories of people who think they only have to rent or only can rent, you find out that they're qualified to buy. Those are awesome, where you work really hard to find them a program. That happened yesterday, which I was really pleased about. I have 8 closings in the next month or so. And that's just about doing the work and feeding your pipe and taking care of people.
And how long have you been licensed?
Well, here, a year and a half.
Year and a half. 8 in the next month. Oh, I switched it, Bruce. She's gonna do the happy hour.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome news. A lot of hard work. Building that pipeline and putting in the effort. So very proud of you. That's a phenomenal story. So thanks for sharing. All right, thanks for sharing, everybody. Sometimes I forget to focus on all the successes that we're having, and I appreciate you guys sharing that. So quick market update. The Rev report is out for Keller Williams as a whole. A lot of huge increases. I'm just going to pass this around. Moral of the story is the market is still performing very well. Everything is going up, up, and up. I'm going to talk very briefly about what's going on in Rochester and CMAR as a whole. Just a quick update, and then we'll dive into some other content as well. So first, let's talk about CMAR as a whole. Median list price from February to February, so February 17 compared to February 18, median list price is up 22%. Year to date, it's up 16%, almost 17. Median sale price month over month is up 13%. Year over year, up about 8%. Days on market, no change. Sold listings. Again, this is CMAR total, and you're going to notice a difference when I look at inventory of Rochester versus CMAR. Totals, the month over month, we're down about 11%, but year to date, we're only down 7%. Pending listings, month over month, down 3%. Year to date, only down 1%. Active listings, CMAR wide, month over month, we're down 15%. Year to date, we're down 10%. New listings, month over month, down 21%. Year to date, we're down 10%. Means a lot more people decide to list in January than February. February is also a shorter month, so it's not that big of a deal. Let's look at Rochester specifically. If we look at median list price, we're up about 10% month over month. For the year, we're up about 13%. Median sale price up 17% month over month and year over year. No change in days on market. So we're still seeing some pretty crazy appreciation. Here's what I want to focus on though, which is total active listings. Year to date, we're up 2.2% for active listings, and new listings, we're up a little over 20%. So what does that show us about, at least here in Rochester specifically, when it comes to listing inventory? Say again?
We're coming alive.
Yeah.
We're rocking.
Where the market is doing what we need to do in terms of hopefully adding some more to inventory, which will solve some of our problems, right? What are you guys experiencing right now with your buyers in this market?
There's nothing to look at.
So lack of inventory, and if you do find something to look at, what's the deal? 20, all of Rochester looking at the other property, right? Take care. So what have you guys been doing to combat that challenge, especially with your buyers?
Send them something.
Just crossing your fingers, or what?
So I send them something every day, watch the hot list and hot sheet every day.
So you might be doing a little bit better of watching what comes on the market in terms of how fast it's coming on and how quickly you're responding to it. Okay, what else are you doing?
You gotta prepare them for that, the current environment.
You're setting expectations.
And how to set yourself or your offer apart. And like we talked about last year, running on multiples and seasonal strategies in this market, otherwise you're not gonna compete from the cover letter to your lender following up right away with confirming you don't have to feel good on the approval. Right. Quick inspections if possible, lining up an inspection at the tentative time before you submit the offer. I think listing agents and sellers love that.
So Todd, tell me more about that. When you're setting expectations with your clients, what does that conversation sound like?
I mean, basically, this is the current market environment we're in. This is what you prepared for. You can tell by story too that we've all had buyers that have missed out their first, 1 to 5 homes because, they weren't realistic or ready for this market. So it's my job to tell you up front what we got to do and how to win in that situation.
And how do buyers react when you share with them that information? Because I'll tell you what we've started telling people. We tell them, here's the deal. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, your deal is getting a home. That's your deal. Your deal is getting the house under contract. There's, very rarely nowadays, we're not coming in 10 under and getting closing costs paid for, right?
You have to be straight with them.
You really do.
You're offering at least asking price. You're not going to lowball anybody. strong deals mean you don't ask for anything, and if you can pay your own closing costs, you can be first in the door even. You can be the first offer in, and you call that agent and say, look, we're first offer in. If someone has a better offer, would you counter with us?
Right.
It gives you a little bit of, hey, we were the first in the door, so.
So I want to table that and come back to that in a minute. So remind me to do that, Carrie, because I feel like sometimes we submit the offer and, we say, hey, we were the first ones, but we don't say exactly what we don't go deeper and say, hey, we were the first ones, as a good faith, effort to us, we'd like to be the first ones to at least counter us. What can we do to work with you? If you could at least honor the fact that we were the first ones in the door, right? And I'll tell you that, 2 or 3 years ago, when I had that frank conversation that Todd talked about, when setting expectations about the market, I still had buyers that would hem and haw, and they felt like maybe this guy's, trying to sell me or pressure me a little bit, because, I'm only about 5 or 6 years removed from a market where there were deals to be had, right? So when you're setting expectations with buyers in today's market, what reaction are you getting from them?
Oh, okay.
Are they kind of giving you the head nod, like, yes, I know that, that's common knowledge?
Serious ones are,
Right.
if they're just tire kickers, or like, yeah, okay.
Sure, which are gonna frustrate you a little bit, right? So the moral of the story is, don't be afraid to set that expectation right now, because what I'm gathering from experiences with agents is that people, they get it, they understand it. So just do yourself a favor, have that conversation up front and let them know it's gonna be competitive. You're gonna be coming in probably at a minimum of their asking price, if not more, if you're in multiple offers, which you almost certainly will be. Has anybody done a deal yet this year where you represented a buyer and you weren't in multiples? How many would you say?
It's not in Rochester though, it's more like the rural area.
Okay, so that's good context. And was the property new to the market still, or no?
No, I didn't.
For a little while, okay. Is it just that one?
No, I've had about a
Couple of those? Okay. You've had a couple?
Yeah.
Were they in January?
There was this one February.
January, February? Okay. And have they been on for a little while too?
One day,
One day.
first in the door.
First mover advantage right there. Okay, excellent. So don't discount getting, being the first in the door and trying to lock it up with it. What'd your offer look like?
It was funny, it was $5,000 under, and they asked for closing costs on like a $200,000.
Mhm.
And it was the best offer that they could do.
Okay.
So first in the door said, look, we got an offer on the table. They just want to be done. They don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So it was the chance we took, and we won.
Was their financing pretty strong, earnest money pretty strong?
Typical $1,000.
Okay.
So it wasn't out of the world. I mean, it wasn't anything flashy.
So you locked it up with speed.
It was
You guys
speed.
got in, made it
Just
happen.
was speed.
Okay. Before I dive into this in any more detail, Jim, I forgot. Do you have any broker items that you would like to bring up and chat about?
Fill in the page numbers. And when you turn in your listings, check all the boxes, make sure everything's checked. 'Cause it's really time consuming going through these things. I mean, every day it's like 4 hours just going through 4 listings. And it's very easy, just scan down, make sure every box, when there is a box checked, when there's a box to check, you check yes, make sure you put an explanation on it. Number of pages is missing on almost every single listing. I can't touch it. I'd love to.
You just put a
but I
question
can't.
mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so page numbers and making sure you're checking the appropriate boxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there should be a prize for the one that has the least amount of errors.
Well, I could have given 2 out. I had 2 perfect ones.
Did you?
This last week.
The prize is keeping your real estate license.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Surprise.
Okay, so we're gonna spend some time as we're about ready to head into the spring market, the uber competitive market, talking about how to win in multiples. And Todd touched on a lot of great things already. So we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper, and there's been a couple of things I've seen agents doing that's helped them a little bit, and we'll talk about that too. So number one is, like we've already talked about, prepping the buyers, making sure you're setting the appropriate expectation. During that consultation, really educate them about what's going on, go over current market inventory. To Tamara's point, you're gonna have a conversation, say, hey, if you're looking to buy in Rochester, it's gonna be a hyper competitive market. If you're looking to go a little bit further out, market conditions might be a little differently. So depending upon where you ultimately find the property that you're wanting to put an offer on, we'll see what kind of situation we're in. What are some of the first things that you do as an agent when your client says, hey, yeah, we've got interest in this property, we're strongly considering an offer? So I'll tell you what I used to do. I used to say, okay, great, that's awesome. You know, just let me know what you decide. What do you do now? Maybe. Yep. Karen, if you've got a buyer, you guys are out of the house, you just walked through it, and they said, hey, we've got some interest, we're going to talk about it, maybe make an offer. What's something that you do almost immediately after you're done meeting with those clients?
Well, in this market, I tell them, move as soon as you can because there's multiple offers on almost every property.
Absolutely. So
We've
it's-
got to go to the office and, you know, sit down right now and hash out what you want to do.
Sure.
I had this happen this weekend. The house went on the market Friday. We looked at it Saturday. One other offer already on the table. And I told him, we have to do it now.
Right.
So, you know, what is the most that you feel comfortable paying for the property? Here's the CMA. Where do you want to go from here?
Right.
I
Somebody
call
else.
the other agent.
Exactly.
And say, what's your best closing date? What are the conditions that'll get us the
Right.
deal?
That's what I'm looking for. Yours was, there's already another offer.
Well, I'd already called the agent. I knew he had an offer on the table. We had to give him.
Perfect. So a couple things. Number one, if you know it's hot, before you even go on the showing,
Right.
you're calling and figuring out what situation am I walking into, right? Number two, if you called and said, hey, you know, there's no offers, it's just busy, you're doing what Carrie does is immediately after the showing, even if your client says we've just got interest, I'm calling immediately saying, hey, keep me apprised of this property status. If you get an offer, let me know, because what will happen is if you've done it like me before, you've, you know, given feedback or something, said, hey, you know, we've got some interest. Your client decides a day later they want to write an offer. Then by the time you go to submit it, it's already under contract because you didn't lean forward and say, hey, we've got strong interest. Let us know if something comes in because we will go for it. And that gives you impetus to call your client. So help yourself and do that as well. Do they have the ability to pay their own closing costs? I'm telling you right now, I can probably count on one hand the amount of buyers that have actually gotten their closing costs truly paid for so far this year with our team. It's usually getting rolled into the sale price, or they're just paying it in order to be competitive, right? So do some work on the front end with that. What amount are they pre-approved to? What are they willing to pay? Have them work on that personal letter. I'm telling you right now, I used to discount this, I'll be honest with you. Oh, personal letter, okay, give me a break, blah, blah, blah. This has won offers for our people. There's two instances that come to mind in 2017 where the letters did the trick. And one of them was not the best offer in terms of net. And oh, by the way, instead of coaching people just to be lovey-dovey in their letters now, we're coaching them to speak to their financial situation as well. One of the personal letters said this: hey, I know I'm using VA financing, which may not be the most attractive, but just so you know, I'm a strong buyer. I could go conventional, and I have the down payment funds to do so. I'm just choosing to use my VA benefit because I'm a military service member and I get a better interest rate. Does that give way more context and really strengthen the position of that finance? She said, and oh, by the way, if I need to go conventional, I will. We're basically saying, what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to try to predict any reason why you might sweep our offer to the side, and we're going to address it on the front end. And oh, by the way, if I have to do it in my client's personal letter, I'll do it. She also said, if there's a difference in the appraised value versus contract sale price, I'll cover it. We're seeing that more and more often these days, which if you've got 5 offers on the table and somebody throws that in there, you're going to have a good chance of winning that sucker if your people are willing to do it. Because, oh, by the way, what do you still have as a safeguard?
Say it again.
What do your clients still have as a safeguard for a few days? An inspection contingency, typically, unless they got super competitive, they didn't work that in there, right? So don't discount the power of the personal letter. It's really huge. And then obviously make sure they're pre-approved.
I even call the lender, because some lenders aren't easy to get hold of on Saturday, and you do a lot of house shopping on Saturday. So I'll call the lender and say, we're going out this weekend, I
Right.
want to write this offer, that, let's make sure we're on the same.
Or give me something ahead of time. I think I heard somebody on Friday talking with Sally. Might have been Cindy. She's like, "Hey, I'm going out this weekend with these guys. Could you send me something so I have it in case I need it?" Like, that's the kind of relationship and conversations you need to have with lenders. Just because speed and time will be of the essence for sure. Clean offer. Make sure your form's up to date, properly filled out, number the pages, right, Jim? I always suggest leave the home warranty out of it, at least initially. Make that an inspection item if you're gonna go down that route, unless one's already advertised as included. And then no additional funds in the financing section. That's just my humble opinion, right? You can do this however you want to. What are some other things that make your offer clean? What does that mean, clean offer? Is there personal property thrown in the mix? No, not typically. We don't want any of that junk included.
Just the normal stuff.
Right.
I was gonna suggest, if you have to ask for closing costs, ask the lender for a dollar amount instead of a percent, because that's a lot easier to, like, if you're gonna ask for $8,000 of closing costs and you up the offer by $8,000, that's like, that's really easy math.
$8,000 is $8,000, regardless.
Whereas 3% is like, well, what is that, and how does that affect my bottom line? And it changes things. So
yeah, I can remember trying to like calculate. Okay, how do I still get them? How do I net them what they're asking if it's a percentage? Like playing with numbers. Just go with the set amount.
Right.
Makes it much easier to do so. Okay, make it as clean as possible, as simple as possible. Stack it in the seller's favor, and we'll talk about close date a little bit later. But oops. Call the other agent. So our coach would always say, you need to call them and butter them up, kill them with flattery. Hey, just got done showing that property on whatever street, great listing, gorgeous, gorgeous home, nice job. And then lead into some of the questions. Hey, by the way, what are your clients looking for in terms of the close date? What can we do to be competitive? What is it that our offer needs to look like in order to win or have a chance? Are those all great open-ended questions you can ask without asking anything that's scandalous? I'm not asking you. Sometimes I'll say this right to them. Where do we need to be to win? Is there anything wrong with doing that? Absolutely not. Be that forward. Ask them. Do your clients a favor. Yes, ma'am.
Even listing agents, if they think they're not supposed to tell you, or they don't think they're supposed to answer your questions.
Right.
I don't know if it's the Minnesota nice thing, but if you ask them a direct question, they don't know what to do except to answer it.
Yeah.
And you can tell sometimes they're kind of like,
Right.
but they'll still answer it because they don't want to lie.
Right.
So and they don't want to say like, well, I can't tell you, so a lot of times they'll just answer it.
Right. Well, in a multiple offer situation, there's nothing wrong with telling you, what might help your offer, right? Because they're doing something in their client's best interest.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got 2 offers on the table and the agent calls and says, where does my offer need to be to win?
Mm-hmm.
One, am I allowed to say that I know what the top offer is? I mean, I'm allowed to do that?
Well, there's a two-part answer to your question. Number one, it depends on what your client has authorized you to do. Some clients authorize you to have those very frank conversations. The other thing you can do is say, in order for your offer to be competitive, I would really look at your earnest money amount, how much you're putting down, whether or not you have an inspection, and I would bring, in reviewing your initial offer, I'd recommend that you increase your offer price. Like that's a very, I'm answering your question, but I'm being elusive enough on the details to not cross any lines.
Right. So what would it cross the line be? If I'm
Giving them a number.
Yeah, if your client has.
For $210,000, that'd be great.
Well, so I had an
that.
agent push me on that.
Sure.
And it was a color agent.
Sure.
And I just said, come with your highest and best. I'm not going to tell you what to offer. The onus is on you to come with your highest and best. What's the best thing your client can do?
Or, well, the flip side is this too, though, because you can frame it a different way and say, well, here's the deal, Carrie. Here's what I'm bringing you. Could you do me a favor and counter me back at where we need to be to win? Can you do that? You do counter offers all the time. It's literally the same exact thing. You can either tell me now where I need to be, or you can counter me back at where I need to be. The difference is, have you had the conversation with your client yet and gotten their permission to share that?
Okay, so I'm gonna say this again just so I'm clear.
Okay.
If I have an offer on the table for $210 and they're like, where does the offer need to be to win? If the seller has said yes, you can absolutely disclose that. I am allowed to do that. I am allowed to say our highest offer right now is $210.
If your seller allows you to do that, and some sellers will allow you to do that.
So would you do that, or would you just counter back above 210 and just say, we're countering
Yeah.
where
Me-
you need
Me
to be.
personally, if I'm a listing agent in that scenario,
I would
I'm
counter it.
calling for highest and best.
Yeah.
And then, but then you can get some people pretty worked up about this too. They'll call for highest and best, and then you start countering people, and they're like, well, what'd you call for highest and best for them? Well, you're first off, always remember you're acting in the fiduciary of your seller. So I want to see what the best offer is, and then what I might do is go back to people and say, hey, if you can beat this amount, it's yours.
So I was really surprised on this last listing. You know, so you're looking at about $200,000 range. Of the 7 offers, 6 of them had $1,000 for earnest money.
Sure.
I mean, just straight across the board. And then one was $5,000.
Right.
And it made absolutely no difference to the sellers. And the sellers
Yeah.
are not emotional at all. They're an organization.
Mhm.
You know, so I mean, I was meeting with a board, and I mean, they were pretty much like, don't care. And I mean, and I went through each line, and I
Yeah.
said, I explained what everything was, and I said, this is how much skin they have in the game, and
Right.
explained what the earnest money meant and everything. I mean, they absolutely didn't care about theirs.
I appreciate that feedback because my personal opinion of that is somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me, okay, what earnest money? What's the big deal? Right? Well, I know as an agent, it can be a big deal. It has some repercussions, but for your average person, it's like, hey, what's the net? I don't care what your earnest
Right.
money is. What's the net to me? Right? Now that being said, we know as agents, earnest money can play a big deal, especially if there's a cancellation involved or something like that. But at the end of the day, if I'm ranking or prioritizing things that are going to make my offer much more competitive, honestly, earnest money amount is toward the bottom. It really is. Unless I get crazy and I stipulate, hey, we're putting 20 grand down, non-refundable. Let's make it happen. That might catch somebody's attention. That would catch my attention a little bit. But I think you're right. If you rest your offer on the fact that you're doing a big earnest money amount, I don't think you're going to be as successful as somebody who's super competitive on the actual net to the sellers. Great point.
And another thing, if you have a Mayo resident and you're doing 100% financing, because that's what they can get, explain that. I mean, there's nowhere on there that's where you can check Mayo. I mean, lots of people don't look at the pre-approval letter. They don't see who it's from. I mean, I would absolutely tell the listing agent, this is a resident, you know, credit qualifying, everything, and they're using the resident program through Mayo Credit Union, and that's why it's 100% financing. But they're still
And I would
really
have your client put that in their personal letter. Explain to them why it is they're doing what they're doing, right? Like I said before, I was missing half of the capability of that letter by just focusing on the warm fuzzy. We're a nice young family moving in. We're going to take great care of your home. You know, you send a letter like that to Todd, Todd's going to rip it up and say, I don't care. No, just kidding. But if you include some dialogue about financing and why you're strong and why you're doing what you're doing, well, then you might speak to the other half that they're looking for, which is, okay, that makes some sense. And here's why we're having this discussion. It's for the very fact that the questions that Carrie had is multiple offers get sticky. There's gray area. People get fired up. Even if you do everything 100% correct, 100% ethically, someone didn't win, so how do you think they feel? And what's their gut human reaction in that situation? It's to start asking questions, point fingers, and finding someone to blame, right? So do yourself a favor and have an orderly process to it, ask questions, and then there are ways that you can try to be a little bit more competitive for your people. What you can and can't do. I think sometimes we don't realize some of the conversations we can have or the questions we can ask because we get a little bit too nervous about that. Okay, oops. Is it still available? Do you have any offers? How many offers? Are any of your offers cash? Again, they don't necessarily have to tell you these things, but you'd be surprised how often they do. People will usually tell me if they have a cash offer. And then my next question is, great, what do I have to do to be competitive with or beat that cash offer? That's literally the next question. Is there anything else you can share about the property and the type of offer? You know, I'm basically asking, what do your sellers want? What do they need? I'm basically telling you, you know, if there's a test, you know, tell me what the answers are, and I'll submit the answers to the test and give you what you want, right? If only I could have done that in high school. Just kidding. Personal letters, you can include a picture. That's awesome. These are just some examples. It's really easy to do. And here's the deal. We used to wait until they found the property they wanted to write on to say, okay, great, start your letter. Buyer consultation. Guess what? Your homework assignment is to start putting together your letter. Oh, by the way, here are a couple of examples of past clients and the letters they've utilized. If you need us to send you a template, or if you need us to write one for you or get you started, we'll do it. Do yourself that favor. Just make this a standard operating procedure for you. And make it as easy for your clients as possible. So Carrie talked about calling the lender earlier and having, you know, a conversation with them to make sure they're on the same page. Also, have your lender make a call or email. You know, if you're saying you've got strong buyers, your buyers are talking about how they're strong, and they get a call from the lender and says, hey, here's the deal. They've been through underwriting, they're pre-approved, everything looks great. I'm ready to order the appraisal ASAP. Oh, by the way, some lenders out there have some guarantees that they can offer. And basically saying they are good to go. You've got 100%, 110% confidence from me as a lender that these buyers are solid. That can make all the difference in the world, because when you're in a situation like Megan's, and you've got how many offers? You've got 7 offers. Most of them netting you more. Almost all of them net more than asking. What do you think starts to become the differentiator?
All the little things.
The little thing, and the strength.
The buyer got it. Of the 7, he was the only one who didn't have a home inspection.
Interesting. Look, so that's great. Make sure we talk about that a little bit. They're going to start figuring out ways to, now they're going to start asking themselves, okay, well, how do we now make sure that we're ending up with an offer if they're pretty equal and a lot of them net us more than what we're asking? Next question is, how do I make sure it's a sure bet? How do I make sure these buyers are strong? That this thing is going to close? Because there are plenty of buyers out there that are just throwing numbers out there to get it to stick, and then trying to get it to actually work and close is a whole nother story. So when you have a lender that will make the call and have a conversation directly with the agent, that can really help solidify. If you're a listing agent, the lender calls you, gives you a warm and fuzzy, and you're able to ask them questions, how does that make you feel as a listing agent when it comes to your confidence in that sucker closing?
I'd back up one more step even when you're having your consultation with them to say, what is a strong offer? A local lender is a stronger offer than John on the internet somewhere that you found. I mean, I would just say straight up, if I had 2 identical offers, I hit the local lender every time.
I would likely do the same.
Because it's reputable.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. Versus some internet person you've never heard of.
Well, yeah,
Right.
you don't know if you can get a hold of
What,
them.
and some of it is this too, and I ask the lender to touch on this too. Mr. and Mrs. Lender, what I also want you to do when you're making this phone call is explain to them how this is an indication of your communication.
Mhm.
That you communicate well, frequently, often, that you can get a hold, that they can get a hold of you, right? Because there's nothing more annoying than an agent or a lender who is not communicative.
Well,
So
and
I will have them say specifically to that agent, hey, no, by the way, this is just an example of how communicative we are on our end through the lending process. We'll be sending updates. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times you can even just tell your buyers, call them, see how easy it is to reach
Right.
that online lender, because that's what's gonna happen once we submit our offer. They're gonna look to see what the communication is. So when they call them and they don't get a call back or it's difficult, I said, there you go.
Absolutely. I've done the same thing. I work with, I've done a lot of business with veterans, and a lot of them will want to use USAA for their mortgage. Great company. I use them for auto insurance. They, in my opinion, not great at mortgages.
No.
They're terrible. They don't even do a pre-approval. They do a pre-qual based on some internet questions that you just submit. And then whenever I call to say, hey, I'm their agent, they're like, well, we can't talk to you. They have to do something or other. And I said, well, you are fired. We're going to find somebody else. I love USAA, great company.
Right.
Well,
A
absolutely.
mortgage, yeah, there's.
They can be better, let's put it that way. Okay. Let's see. Yep, give it a little warm and fuzzy. Remove seller paid closing costs. We talked about this. Obviously, one method you can do that's common is you roll them on top, but just, gauge the appraisal issue. So let me ask this question. Raise your hand if in 2017 you had a transaction in which there was an appraisal issue.
Mhm.
How many?
1.
Bruce, how many?
We had 2.
2. Compared to the year prior, do you feel like you had more appraisal issues in 17 or 16?
We did.
Okay,
17.
more in 17? How about compared to 15? That's okay. Here's what I've experienced. Just too much wine. It seems like the number of appraisal issues has declined, in my humble opinion. But I don't know. I mean, it's getting uber competitive. I remember in like 2015 or 2016, it was like, every other deal was an appraisal issue. And then we got to that point where appraisers saw that we were seeing massive and rapid market appreciation, so it kind of solved that. So we started having just maybe 1 or 2 annually. So 17 wasn't crazy for appraisal issues, right? So your ability to roll closing costs into your offer, I'm finding, many people are being successful doing that.
The
Yes, sir.
2 that we had.
Yeah.
Were, one was a new construction.
Okay.
That didn't appraise out.
Really?
Yeah.
Usually those you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, it was the price was 430 and they had a price for 440. Really? And the offer came in at 440. So that didn't price out. The second one was due to like an offer that Megan got. It was,
Right.
It was 10 grand over list price and it didn't appraise.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and I'll be really surprised if this one does.
If it appraises?
Yeah.
Yeah, and did you have that expectations dialogue with your people?
Yep.
Yeah. And so in those instances, Bruce, did the deal stay together?
It did. The seller agreed to come down, paid of the $10,000, and the buyer came up and paid $2,000.
Awesome.
Of cash. But it all depends on the buyer's
Capabilities.
financing ability.
Right.
I mean, do they have that extra $2,000?
Right.
Do they want to pay more than what the appraisal
Right.
is market?
Yeah, well, sometimes not do they have it, but are they willing to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How about yours? Did it stay
Same.
together?
They split the difference.
Yeah.
But in our market, the price point of our home so much, most of the time, we're asking for seller paid close costs
Right.
because that's the dynamic of the buyers that
Right.
we're working with
Right.
when they're in that 125 and below market.
They
So,
don't have
The
that cash
reason
on.
we have more appraisal issues right now is that we are asking for more than list
Right.
price because we're in multiples, but we are seeing some of the appraisals kick back and say, no, not so much.
Sure. Well, and I feel like when it used to be a couple of years ago, an appraisal issue might kill a deal. It might not even be that significant. And it was killing deals because people weren't really expecting it. It was catching them off guard. But nowadays, agents, you guys are doing a great job having the expectations dialogue on the front end, saying, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to go down this route, but here's the deal. Don't be surprised if we do see an appraisal issue. And if we do, we'll handle it at that time. This is what we can do at that point. And oh, by the way, when you call them and you have to give them that news, it's not as big of a punch to the gut. And they're kind of like, okay, we have expected this. What do we need to do to keep it moving forward? Which can be a tricky conversation to have on the front end. But I'm telling you, it makes life a lot easier when you do. I'll come to you in just a minute because Karen was going to say something.
Well, and you have to counsel your sellers too when you list a property that, we're picking a sweet spot for our list price and we may get multiple offers, but here's how this could roll. We might not appraise out if,
Right.
the number is too high. So they're mentally prepared. Oh, do you remember we talked about this and these are some of the options that we talked about doing to massage this and keep the deal going.
Absolutely, and it's a much easier conversation. Hey, calling you, we talked about how an appraisal might be an issue. Well, unfortunately, it is in this instance. Here's the gap, and here's what we can do to close it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, role play. So I'm the buyer. Here's my offer. That's what happens if this doesn't appraise.
So if let's say are we multiple offer situation?
Maybe.
Oh, yes or no?
Well, no, because at this point we've accepted everything accepted.
Not
It just doesn't
not
appraise.
necessarily.
Okay,
Okay, so let me. Well, I'll just talk in general
Yeah.
about it. Let's say that we've got 5 offers on the table. You're making me an offer. You're rolling your closing costs on top.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is listing agents come back and say, Carrie, we'll go with you. We'll do that so long as if there's an appraisal issue, your buyer agrees to on the front end make up the difference.
Which you cannot do with an FHA or a VA. Cannot override the escape clause.
Right. Well, no, you can if it doesn't appraise, the buyer can bring the difference to the table and still close.
But you cannot write something in there that overrides the escape clause.
But can the buyer still do that?
Right, you can ask, but you
Yeah.
can't write it in the
So
first.
we can have an agreement that if
Mhm.
there's an issue, and when it comes to appraised value, that you will address it. And that might be the differentiator that helps you win that offer.
No
You just
lender
need
that's doing the
cash flows.
FHA or VA loan will accept that.
And
You
You
can't
have to have it
override.
between the buyer and the, whatever, in order for them to have that on written document stating they would pay it. But you could not do it.
Well, first of all, you should always submit purchase agreement to the lender. With that, the escape clause says that they don't qualify for financing if it doesn't appraise. And there isn't anything you can do. There's no side agreement or anything because the lender will come back and say no to anything that you try to do like that. So you can have a gentleman's agreement with the buyer saying, yes, I've got an extra, you know, right, and I can pay the difference if this happens. But you can't, there's nothing that you can do to write that in there because the lender won't accept it, period.
So I'll be honest with you, I would, you know, have the conversation with the lender on the front end. I have not had that kickback. And we've used it, but we all know not all lenders are crazy. So the conversation I'd have with you, Carrie, on the front end is, we're multiples. If you want to win this, you're going to agree on the front end to cover an appraisal difference up to the original list price. That's the caveat we put in there. If it appraises for less than the list price, well, that's a different story. Right? If we went with you, let's say we went with you and you didn't agree to that, and we have an appraisal issue. Me as a seller, as a listing agent, the first reaction I'm going to have is, great. I mean, that sucks. Come up with the difference. Otherwise, we're going right back on the market because we had 6 other offers. I'm not saying that's what we'll actually do, but from a negotiation standpoint, that's my knee-jerk reaction. Now, when I represent the buyer, what do you think my knee-jerk reaction is? Oh, gosh, that's a bummer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We need you to take the hit because my buyer doesn't have the cash on hand to make up the difference. And then, so basically, what I do is I kind of throw it out there, and I wait for I wait to call your bluff, essentially. Because if I say you have to make up the difference, and you call me back and say we simply can't, well, now we're going back and forth and we're doing some negotiating, right? But my first reaction always, if I represent the seller, is to say buyer's got to make up the difference. If I represent the buyer, it's to say seller's got to come down and take the hit. It's always my go-to reaction. What I'm finding nowadays is more and more it's become a little bit more negotiated because people are more aware of the fact they might find themselves in that situation on the front end. Yes, sir.
So what's your dialogue to, if you're representing the buyer, what's your dialogue to the listing agent if that happens?
Kind of what I just said to Carrie. So let's say you're the listing agent and I'm the buyer's agent, and I just got notified that the appraisal came in short. So, hey, Jacob, here's the deal. Unfortunately, appraisal came back. You know, they just didn't have the comps to support the price you listed at. No, I'm just kidding. They just didn't have the comps to support the contract sale price. You know, buyers don't have the funds to make up the difference, so we're going to need the sellers to go ahead and you know, we're going to have to adjust the price down to the appraised value. I'm being very assumptive in that, but sometimes that works. Sometimes that works. You would be surprised. And they'll say, okay, you know, because here's the deal. Chances are maybe you were listed at 250. We agreed on 265. Appraised value came in at 255. You're still 5,000 over asking. It's still a win. So I'm going to sell it to you. Jake, your people are still getting 5,000 more than they asked for. That's great news. This is still a win for you and for them.
And you don't have to go back through showings and inspections and renegotiations with a new unknown buyer. It's you've got all that under your belt.
So I'll just dig my heels in either situation I'm in and then find out whether or not someone sends me a cancellation. If you send me a cancellation, then I say, well, wait a minute, Jake. We might have some wiggle room. Let's talk some more. Right. I won't go into detail on this. Shorten the time frame or completely remove it. Like Megan said, that's the reason why her client got it. We just removed it. Now, if somebody ever removes, first off, me personally, our team, we never recommend somebody not have a home inspection. We never recommend that. But what we do is educate them about their options. One option you have to be more competitive in theory is to remove that. If you choose to remove it, you're going to sign what? Something that said, I told you about home inspections. I really suggested that you do one, and you are choosing not to do one. Do that every single time. It covers your butt.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
Do it every single time. In theory, it should cover your butt. Did they sign off on the waiver?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
And it did not
Is
help.
there something else that we need to have them sign other than initial on that KW form?
Because that does not protect you.
It should.
There's probably, I know what situation you're talking about. There's probably more to the story, more background information.
Okay.
But I would have them, and I would make it specific to the property. I'd make it specific to the property. Writing an offer on this property, I discussed with you a home inspection.
Oh.
I recommended it, and you are opting not to have one. Not just that I made you aware of home inspections.
Okay.
I made you aware of home inspections. Great. No, I advised you to do one, and you specifically chose not to.
But what do we have them sign? Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. What do we have specific to that property what do you recommend to have a buyer sign that says, I do not want an inspection?
Some sort of Word document that you type up.
Okay.
Yep, or.
Or an email, could they send you an email?
Yeah, emails are fine,
Okay.
emails are fine, but by God,
Perfect.
anytime you can get somebody to sign off on something,
Yeah.
that carries a lot more weight.
Okay. Good deal.
And that's gonna become more prevalent if you're doing these deals where home inspections are not involved.
Right.
Carrie?
You know, when you're setting expectations too, when we say what's a strong offer, I say one of the strategies out there is that there might be an agent that recommends to their client not to have a home inspection. There's no law that says you have to have a home inspection. Would I ever recommend you don't? No.
Right.
But know that you might come up against that in a multiple offer situation.
That's just part of,
Tell our buyers.
right, and that's just part of educating.
It's a stronger offer.
Right.
I don't recommend it.
Right.
And I'll tell you why I do that, because, you know, some people would say, well, no, but just, I'm not even gonna tell them it's an option not to do it. Well, here's the deal. Let's say they lose and they find out later that they lost because they threw that in there and you never told them it was an option not to. They might be pretty bitter and pretty upset about it. So do yourself a favor. Sorry, Bruce, I know I'm running a little bit long. No worries, I can. Address potential appraisal issues immediately. We talked about that. Always check for pending assessments. We actually lost a deal in 17 or 16 because we didn't catch that there was a pending assessment that we could have just assumed. Somebody else said they would assume it and they won. Not saying your clients will want to do that, but it's an option that might make you benefit. Encourage the seller to counter. This will help you win more than any other thing. You submit the offer and you say, Carrie, here's the deal. At the end of the day, our buyers are motivated, they're strong. You know, when all the cards have been laid out on the table, counter us back and let us know where we can be. Doesn't do it. Or you submit the offer and say, here are our terms. If the sellers want to change anything, if they want a different close date, if they want more earnest money, if we need to come in higher, let me know. And we'll do it. Or I'll take it to my buyers. Right? Because as listing agents, how often do you get just an email offer that says, here's our offer, and they do nothing else? Most of the time, Tamara, most of the time? Yes or no? I mean, some people are up on their game, but usually that's what happens. Here's our offer. Right? Do go the extra mile and just say, great, I know you got a lot of offers, just let me know what I have to do when. And that will oftentimes carry the day for you. That gets back to buttering them up on the front end and building that good rapport. Right? Because if I can tell you're a great agent to work with and you're communicative, I'm, you know, all things considered equal, especially if I can help you edge out the other offers, I'm probably going to want to work with you. Let the sellers pick the close date, add an escalation clause. These can get hairy, but these will help you win it. They really will. And you can do it two ways. You can throw a max in there, or you sometimes cannot throw a max in there, whatever you prefer. We've won them this way before. Not all of our buyers are comfortable doing it. Not all sellers are comfortable considering it, but we've won them this way before too. Oh, by the way, all the more reason to network with your fellow co-op agents, because whether or not they're with the same company or not, if I call them and I already know them and we've done a deal together, how easy do you think it is for me to say, hey, Carrie, here's the deal. How you doing, by the way? How's the family? Awesome. Hey, we got this one coming in. Strong buyers. They're great. They're good stuff. They can close whenever you guys want. At the end of the day, just let us know where we need to be. I feel pretty good about that. Yes, sir.
I'd make that language a little bit stronger. Like, it says buyer requests a copy. What if they don't give you one? It's a request.
Right.
That you would require it. You would say the seller shall provide a copy.
However you decide to do it. Correct. Yep. Whatever you're comfortable with. Jim, the broker, hey man, he says required, that's what I would do. Mine is we're requesting it.
I just say upon verified.
Yeah.
Upon verified.
Provide a copy of the competing offer.
The reason that says request is if it's going to be a deal breaker for them, well, we might be willing to just take your word for it.
I even had one that was so specific. It was like they wanted the verification and would need copies of page 1 and 4.
Yeah, but I typically do that too. I say I just need a copy of page 1. I just need to see the terms, and then page 4 is maybe financing or something.
Right.
Closing costs.
Seller pays.
Yeah, I need to see the pages that allow me to determine the net. That's all I need. I don't need to, because you get into confidentiality and private stuff, you know, all that jazz. That's, hey, just send me what I need to see in order to verify that, you know, we had to meet a certain net. Jennifer, you have your
I'm good. No, that.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, yep, no rainer, right? Oh yeah, that'd be nice. Fine. Here's a good one for you. email these to your databases. Email your buyer needs to your databases. You're going to get hits off this. You'll pick up clients off of this. And it's also letting people know that you have clients when you're looking for business. The last thing I would say that is the next evolution or the next new strategy I've seen people start doing now for multiple offers is you have the client's personal letter, and now you kind of have agents doing something similar where they're selling themselves as the agent. I've got X amount of years experience. I've done X amount of transactions. You know, I never have offers that don't close on time, and they're like laying it out bullet point wise why you should work not only with their buyers, but why they as the agent should be the one that you choose to work with, because you know the transaction is going to be smooth, no issues, and it's going to be solid. So that would be the only other thing that I would suggest you take a minute to think about and say, how can I bolster my credibility as the agent as well to help it make it that much easier for them to work with me? Because, oh, by the way, if the worst case scenario, you're at least planting the seed for them to maybe research a couple of the other agents, right? And if you can show you're seasoned and you know what you're doing, and the other two offers or the other offer is from a completely new agent, we've got nothing against new agents. But that might factor into my consideration if they're pretty darn equal to each other. Anything else for the good of the order? I'm sorry I ran just a few minutes over. Carrie? No? Nothing? No? All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
This is PowerPoint.
Jake, are you going